Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a shocking development that's shaking the entire region. A massive exodus from Crimea after Russia's crucial land bridge has been destroyed. This single event has triggered a wave of panic, desperation, and chaos as thousands try to flee the peninsula that once seemed untouchable under Russian control. The situation is rapidly deteriorating, and what's happening on the ground paints a picture of total uncertainty for Crimea's future and Russia's grip over it. For months, analysts have warned that if Ukraine ever managed to cut off Russia's land connection to Crimea, it would change everything. That prediction has now come true. The land bridge, Russia's key lifeline linking mainland Russia to Crimea, has been obliterated by a series of devastating strikes. Satellite images show broken highways, collapsed supply routes, and massive convoys of vehicles trying to escape. The bridge that once carried food, fuel, and troops to the peninsula is now a wasteland of twisted metal and smoke. Without this vital connection, Crimea has effectively become an island under siege. Reports from multiple sources indicate that panic spread almost instantly. The moment news broke that the land bridge was gone, residents across Crimea began packing their belongings. Gas stations ran out of fuel within hours. Supermarkets were flooded with people trying to grab whatever food was left. The once bustling streets of Simferopol and Sevastopol turned into traffic-choked escape routes as families tried to get out before the situation worsened. Videos from inside Crimea show endless lines of cars, people abandoning vehicles, and chaos at ferry terminals as thousands scramble for any way off the peninsula. What makes this even more dramatic is how unprepared Russian authorities seem to be. Moscow's media tried to downplay the damage at first, claiming that repairs were underway and that alternative routes were being arranged. But residents saw the truth with their own eyes. There was no movement of trucks, no supplies coming in, and no hope that the bridge could be repaired anytime soon. The fear spread quickly. Without supplies, Crimea could face a full-scale humanitarian crisis. The military situation is even more alarming. The destruction of the land bridge means that Russian forces stationed in Crimea are now isolated. They can no longer easily receive ammunition, reinforcements, or heavy equipment. Ukrainian forces have effectively choked off the main artery that sustained the Russian military presence there. Analysts describe it as one of the most strategically devastating blows Russia has faced since the beginning of the war. The once mighty corridor that allowed Russia to move its tanks and troops freely has now vanished, leaving thousands of soldiers stranded and vulnerable. Russian troops are reportedly fortifying defensive positions around key coastal areas and airfields, but morale appears to be collapsing. Intercepted communications reveal that soldiers are running low on basic supplies. Many fear being cut off completely if Ukraine intensifies its attacks. Ukrainian drone footage shows abandoned Russian vehicles, makeshift bunkers, and soldiers attempting to retreat via boats or small ferries. It's clear that the psychological impact of this loss is as severe as the physical destruction itself. For civilians, the situation is equally desperate. Crimea's population has long depended on the land bridge for essential goods, food, fuel, and medical supplies. With that gone, daily life has turned into a struggle for survival. Pharmacies are running empty. ATMs have stopped working. Long lines form outside bakeries that have little to offer. Local markets have skyrocketing prices, with basic items like bread and milk becoming unaffordable for many. Residents are reportedly trying to barter or trade what little they have left, as the economy inside Crimea begins to collapse under isolation. In Sevastopol, the once proud naval stronghold, scenes of fear and confusion dominate. Families of Russian soldiers stationed there are among the first to flee. There's growing anger at Moscow's inability to protect them. Some residents are openly criticizing Russian authorities, something unheard of just months ago. The feeling of abandonment is spreading, and for many, the realization that Crimea may no longer be under safe Russian control is beginning to sink in. Ukraine, on the other hand, is calling this a turning point in the war. Officials in Kiev describe the destruction of the land bridge as a strategic liberation step that will isolate Russian forces and pave the way for Crimea's eventual return. Ukrainian commanders say that the operation was months in the making, a carefully planned strike that targeted key weak points in Russia's logistical network. Military experts believe the attack combined precision missile strikes, sabotage operations, and drone surveillance to achieve devastating effectiveness. The symbolism of this event is also enormous. For years, Russia showcased the land bridge as proof that Crimea was permanently connected to the motherland. It was more than just a road. It was a statement of dominance. Its destruction is not only a military setback, but also a psychological and political blow to Vladimir Putin's image of control. The Kremlin now faces mounting pressure to explain how such a vital artery could have been destroyed under its watch. Inside Russia, news outlets are struggling to maintain the narrative. State-controlled media initially called it a temporary disruption, but social media flooded with images that told a very different story. Angry families of soldiers trapped in Crimea began posting desperate messages online, demanding answers. Videos of panicked evacuations and burned-out convoys went viral, and soon even pro-Kremlin commentators began expressing concern. The illusion of stability in Crimea has shattered. As the chaos unfolds, reports suggest that Russian authorities are imposing strict travel restrictions, trying to prevent a total collapse of order. Military checkpoints are everywhere. Civilians are being questioned about their movements. Ferries crossing the Kerch Strait are overwhelmed, and some passengers have waited days with no clear instructions. The few available evacuation routes are under tight control, and the desperation is only growing. Many fear that the Russian government might eventually declare martial law in Crimea to maintain control over the population. At the same time, Ukraine is not stopping. New satellite imagery shows continued strikes on Russian supply depots, communication centers, and fuel reserves. Ukraine appears determined to keep pressure on the peninsula and ensure that Russian forces cannot regroup. Western analysts suggest that this could mark the beginning of a broader strategy not just to isolate Crimea, but to make it untenable for Russian occupation. By cutting off all land access, Ukraine may be setting the stage for a slow but inevitable collapse from within. For the people still trapped in Crimea, the uncertainty is unbearable. Many don't know whether to flee or stay. Internet access is unreliable and communication lines are disrupted. Rumors spread fast. Some claim Ukrainian troops are advancing, others that Russian reinforcements are on the way. But on the ground, the truth is simpler and harsher. There's no safe way out, and supplies are dwindling by the hour. Humanitarian groups warn of a potential refugee crisis if conditions continue to deteriorate. Economically, the impact is devastating. Crimea's tourism sector, once a major source of income, has completely collapsed. The beaches are empty, hotels are abandoned, and the ports are silent. Businesses have closed and unemployment is soaring. Banks are freezing assets as panic withdrawals continue. The entire peninsula is on the brink of an economic meltdown. For Russia, the loss of the land bridge isn't just a logistical issue, it's a blow to its national pride. This was one of the most heavily guarded infrastructure projects in Russian history, and its destruction sends a clear message. No part of Russia's war machine is safe. Putin's promises of stability in Crimea now ring hollow, and even among his supporters, doubts are starting to surface. The fear of losing Crimea altogether, something once considered unthinkable, is becoming very real. Internationally, this event has shifted perceptions of the conflict. Western leaders are hailing the destruction of the land bridge as proof of Ukraine's growing capability. The success of such a high-value strike demonstrates the effectiveness of Western-supplied weapons and intelligence. Meanwhile, Russia's allies are quietly concerned. Nations like China and Iran, who have been cautiously supportive, are watching Moscow's struggles with unease. Losing control over Crimea could weaken Russia's global influence and destabilize its alliances. As for Ukraine, the morale boost is immense. For a country that has endured so much destruction and loss, this moment represents a victory that few thought possible. The idea that Crimea, once declared forever Russian, could now be slipping away is energizing both the military and the public. In Kiev, celebrations have broken out, but officials remain cautious, emphasizing that much work remains to be done. They know that Russia will not give up Crimea easily. Back in Moscow, emergency meetings are underway. Military commanders and political leaders are scrambling for solutions. Some are calling for a massive counteroffensive to reopen the land route, while others suggest negotiating a temporary ceasefire to stabilize the situation. But there's no easy fix. The logistical nightmare of rebuilding the bridge under constant Ukrainian strikes makes any quick recovery impossible. Every day that passes further isolates Crimea and weakens Russia's position. As winter approaches, the situation could become catastrophic. Fuel shortages will make heating homes difficult, and food scarcity could spark unrest. Local authorities are warning that electricity rationing may begin soon. Without steady supply lines, even basic infrastructure is starting to fail. Hospitals are running low on medicine, and water systems are under strain. The humanitarian consequences could soon overshadow even the military aspects of this crisis. The people of Crimea are facing a grim reality. Many of them were promised prosperity and safety under Russian rule. Now they find themselves trapped in a war zone, abandoned by the same government that claimed to protect them. The mass exodus is not just a movement of people, it's a symbol of lost faith, of a population realizing that the future they were promised no longer exists. As the world watches, this moment could mark the beginning of the end of Russia's control over Crimea. The destruction of the land bridge has not only changed the course of the war, but also rewritten the political map of the region. Whether Russia can recover from this blow remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the balance of power has shifted dramatically. In the coming weeks, the world will see how far Russia is willing to go to retain its grip, and how determined Ukraine is to reclaim what it considers rightfully its own. But for now, as thousands flee and the smoke still rises from the ruins of the bridge, one undeniable truth emerges: Crimea is no longer the fortress Russia once claimed it to be. The land bridge is gone, the lifeline is severed, and the tide of history may finally be turning.